Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Timeless Movie Podcast, episode number 168. My name is Victor Vasquez. Appreciate you joining me on this episode and this channel where all we do is talk about and discuss new movies. Movies that come out in theaters or in streaming. We'll talk about it high level first, non-spoilers, and then we'll transition over to the spoilers section where we'll talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, what we hoped we could see, or what we just completely loved about the movie. And then we'll wrap it all up by deciding, after watching this movie once, is it timeless? Is it something that we can see ourselves watching in the future, various different times? And in my case, maybe trying to own this on physical media. Now, everybody's going to have their own opinions. That is totally fine. And it's good that you have your own opinions after you watch a movie, because there might be perspectives that other people might not realize, like myself. So if you want to voice those opinions, let me know. I have the email for the Timeless Movie Podcast up in the description. It is timelessmoviepod@gmail.com. Reach out to me. Send me an email. Let me know what you've recently watched, one of your favorite movies. We're getting to the end of December, the end of the year for 2025. So let me know, what are your top movies that you have seen this year in 2025? Would love to hear your guys' thoughts. Now, speaking of movies that we've seen in 2025, one I recently ended up talking about was on episode 167, in which I talk all about Jay Kelly, the Netflix movie starring George Clooney, Laura Dern, Adam Sandler, directed by Noah Baumbach. Go check out episode 167. Let me know if you've had a chance to see Jay Kelly and if you agree or disagree with my thoughts on that film. All right, let's go ahead now and dive in to this week's episode, in which we are talking about the new film from Park Chan-Wook, and it is called No Other Choice. Now, I was really excited to see this specific movie because, well, one, it has a director that is very well known around the world. If you don't know, Park Chan-Wook has made a lot of different types of styles of movies, but one that really caught my eye was Old Boy. I actually ended up seeing that in theaters, and it was such a crazy and just the way that the story would take you in so many different directions. And so as soon as I had watched that one, and I was late to the game, so apologies, but after watching that one, it just really got me hooked to wanting to watch more of Park Chan-Wook's work as well. And so when I heard that he was going to make another film and I saw that there was an early access screening, I had to take advantage. And so really excited. Let's now move into the non-spoiler section. That way I can cover a little bit more thoughts about what I felt after leaving the movie theaters, give you a little bit of a synopsis about the movie, and some highlights as well. Okay, No Other Choice is directed by Park Chan-Wook. If you are not aware, he has made films like Old Boy, Handmaiden, Decision to Leave, and various different types of movies. He has a really cool type of a style of, at least in the movies that I've seen from him, this might be his entire filmography, but for most of the movies that I've seen, he always has a very cool way to kind of add this type of tension to what's going on with the characters, but still make it funny in that kind of a way. And joining him on the specific movie of No Other Choice, we have actors Lee Byung-hun, Sun Ye-jin, Yeon Hai-ran, and Lee Sung-min. Apologies to anybody if I mispronounced the names at all, but just wanted to highlight those actors that came out in this film. Now, the question is, what is No Other Choice about? What is it dealing with in this story? Well, let me tell you. No Other Choice introduces us to the main character named Mansu, played by Lee Byung-hun. Now, Mansu currently, at the point of introduction, he works at a paper company. He loves his job and he loves his life because he is married to the woman that he loves. He has 2 kids, 2 dogs. Everything is exactly the way he envisioned it. He even had a chance to purchase his childhood home with the money he's made at the paper company. So he thinks, you know what? Life can't get better than this. And as you would expect in stories like this, something bad happens. Mansu ends up losing his job at the paper company. The family ends up having to do a lot of sacrificing in order to keep their home and also keep just staying afloat with what they have to pay for in regards to their expenses. And so Mansu makes a commitment to his family. I am going to get a job, but not only any job, I'm going to get back into the paper company. And he does all this type of work, and sometimes he takes it a little too far in the film in order to just try to get a job with a paper company. And so I'm not going to say what those drastic measures are, but he does get very desperate. And that's what leads us into some of the choices that he ends up making. But I'll leave it there. That is essentially what the film is about, a man just trying to get a job in the actual industry that he loves. What are my thoughts though after watching No Other Choice? Well, I thought this movie was great after I left the theater. I had such a good time, and I mentioned it a little bit before. Park Chan-Wook has a great ability to be able to give these characters, these absurd situations or these scenarios that are just so intense, but I'm still able to laugh. I'm still able to just enjoy like what is going on in regards to a scene. Sometimes there could be something very particular, like somebody being investigated, and just a little facial reaction, a little look, an expression, and it just gets back to the comedy and the funniness of what is going on in this situation. But again, I really had a good time with it. I laughed a lot of, or really laughed in a lot of different scenes. But let me go ahead and cover some of the highlights and the positives that I had in regards to No Other Choice. That way, maybe it kind of gives you a better picture as to whether you guys should check it out. Okay, first positive that I want to call out about No Other Choice is the way that they were able to set up a lot of the transitions in this movie. And what I mean by that is the way that the film would actually be edited and transition from scene to scene. There was some just creative types of fades and changing from, again, one scene to another. I'll give you an example, and this isn't really spoiling anything, but there's this one specific scene where you have Mansu drinking a beer, and it has a shot glass inside the beer, and he's just taking it and drinking it, and the camera just kind of goes sideways, looking as if, oh yeah, you're Mansu, you're drinking the beer, and then all of a sudden you're like inside the cup, seeing the beer go right down his mouth as the little shot glass hits his lips, and so it's just a way that they're able to just kind of transition in that kind of a moment to just make it feel like you're just you're in the glass in itself. There's other scenes as well where a character is digging a hole in the ground and they're just like digging and digging, and then all of a sudden you start seeing the scene fade, and then once that last shovel kind of moves the dirt, you see a character in their bed turning from one side to another, almost as if it's simulating that the person that was shoveling is moving that person from one side of their bed to the other. So things like that, where they just establish all these movements and these crossfades within the movie. I love that kind of stuff because it just makes the story much more engaging, much more interesting. I never wander when I'm watching it. That's probably the worst feeling that I get when I watch a movie that I'm not interested in is my mind just starts thinking about or wandering to other things. And in No Other Choice, I never felt that. I was always interested in how they were going to continue to fade into the next scene or go from one character to another. And again, keep you invested in finding out, well, what the heck is Mansu going to do now in order to get his job back? So transitions, editing in this movie is just top notch. Second highlight that I wanted to cover about No Other Choice that I really just was a good call out for me is the sound design. Surprisingly, I know that this film is like a thriller comedy, but I wasn't expecting to be so like attached to how cool the sound actually was in this movie. You would be able to really focus in on, like, for example, Mansu's wife, Miri. She would take dance lessons and dance classes, and so sometimes she would be wearing specific dance shoes, and sometimes it would focus on her shoes, and you could just hear her tapping her shoes, but it was way louder than anything else that was playing in that scene. Or you would see certain instances where Mansu, who loved being in his greenhouse and working on his plants, he had bonsai trees, and there would be focuses where he would be kind of like trying to put wire around the bonsai tree to kind of shape it in a certain way. And then all of a sudden in that scene, there's no dialogue. You just hear the crunch or the crack of the bonsai tree or hear the wire bending to the will of Mansu. And so those are the kind of aspects of sound design that just catch me off guard, especially in a movie like this where, I'm focused on the story, I'm focused on the narrative and where it's going to take me. And the sound just completely caught me off guard. But again, in a good way, because it also adds the tension. You're watching Mansu do these very absurd things, and it's already okay, this is very interesting. Why would he be doing this? And then you just hear the sound design of the entire movie, and it just ups the intensity even more. So really dug the sound design of No Other Choice. Okay, last but not least, this is a very simple and basic pro or highlight, but I still got to call it out. And that's the performances in this movie by every actor in No Other Choice. Everybody just has their part to play, whether it's Miri or Mansu. Like everybody is so interesting because you see like how Miri is like the loyal one of the family. She does anything for her husband Mansu, even like giving up her tennis lessons, giving up on different types of aspects, even having to get another job. And so everybody has like their specific part to play and you get connected to these characters. And then you have characters like Mansu, who again, he's the main protagonist, but you're every decision he makes, you're like, no, please, are you sure this is the right choice? Like, are you sure you want to go down this path? And then he also opens like up a lot of opportunities to just laugh at what's going on in his life, laughing at like the pain that he has because he has a toothache, or laughing because of him trying to develop a plan in order to talk to somebody at a paper company. And so everybody's performances is just very interesting. Nobody like stood out in regards to like, oh, like that performance maybe didn't work or somebody was miscast. None of that. Everybody played their part exactly well and what they needed to do. So props to every actor in No Other Choice. They made this story much more interesting. And again, all goes to the performances. And they had me laughing various different times as well. Okay, moving on to some negatives. I really only have one. And this is really just going to be a personal experience on my side. If you guys watch the movie, you probably will not feel the same way. But again, let me know in the comments. This is why it's always good to kind of voice your opinions in a civil and nice way. But in my own kind of experience after watching the movie, the only con I had was I actually thought that the movie's ending really finished and wrapped up abruptly. Like I was expecting something to happen to Mansu or to some of the other characters in this movie. And instead, it kind of just, wraps up very nicely, very neatly, and the movie just goes into credits. And it caught me off guard a little. I was like, oh no, wait, we're not going to get like an epilogue. We're not going to get a little bit more as to how like this person or how this individual's consequences caught up to them. Like, how is this going to work? And the movie just kind of wraps up. And so to me, I would have loved to see just a little bit more, or to really just get a better type of an ending where you see really like the consequences of all the decisions that Mansu, Miri, and every character made. So maybe not every character, maybe mostly just Mansu and Miri. I just wanted to see more of their family life after a certain decision is made. So I don't know. To me, in my own kind of process of this movie and how I'm kind of thinking about it days after watching it, I just wish that the ending would have hit me a little bit harder. All right, that is enough with the highlights and the cons that I may have brought up. One question I do want to answer is, should you guys go check this one out in theaters? My personal opinion, I will say yes. Give this one a shot. If you're already a fan of Park Chan-Wook, then this film will not disappoint, in my opinion. It's still so intriguing. It still has those thrilling elements, and it's gonna make you laugh. At least, again, well, comedy is subjective, but I felt like this movie has so many situational moments that just are just gonna make you laugh because of what's going on, and again, how ridiculous it is. So that's gonna be my recommendation. If you have a local theater playing No Other Choice, give this one a chance. All right, everybody, that is all I have for non spoilers, but we are not done. Let's go into spoilers. That way, we can talk a little bit more about what happened in this movie, why I liked it so much, but also, is this film timeless? That's the question we got to answer. So, if you don't want to be spoiled, and I highly recommend, please jump out of the video now if you don't want to be spoiled, because I will be talking about bits and pieces of this film. So, this will be your final warning before we jump into full spoilers of No Other Choice. All right. Hopefully that gave you enough time to jump out of the podcast and then come back after you watch the movie. But let's jump into some spoilers. I want to actually kind of explain a little bit about what happens in the movie. Then I want to answer the question of, is No Other Choice timeless? So, like I mentioned in the synopsis earlier on in the film, essentially, this whole movie revolves around Mansu, played by Lee Byung-hun. He is wanting to get a job at a paper company. And so, what does he do? He ends up looking at all of the prospective interviewees that are also looking for jobs in the paper company. He tracks them down. And what is his decision? He decides to take them out. That way, he can interview for a paper company and have no competition. That is the choice that he ends up making. And I just couldn't believe that that was the his thought process. But when I think back at it after I left the theater, I can totally see that happening in the real world, as ridiculous as that sounds. I don't know why, like humans, not all humans, but I would say some humans, we think of the most wild and outlandish ideas when we are stuck in a pickle, when we don't know what to do, we're desperate, and we think of these plans that are so intricate. When we then look at it like, from a bigger picture, and then we realize, actually, there was probably an easier decision that we could have done. And I feel like that's exactly what Monsu ends up realizing is he could have just done a different type of a tactic. He could have maybe even worked together with the other interviewees that, they all are skilled in paper. And so they probably could have just started their own company. And so that's essentially, again, one of the spoilers I wanted to give away was essentially the whole premise is Monsu trying to find the other interviewees and basically take them out and kill them. What's so hilarious is that it doesn't go according to plan the first time. He ends up like, trying to kill one of the interviewees. It fails. His wife actually comes in on the attempt. And then all of a sudden, his wife is the one that shoots the interviewee. It was very wild. It was crazy, but just wanted to call that out. And then another aspect of this movie that, again, I couldn't really spoil at the beginning is at the end of the movie, why it ends so abruptly is you end up finding out that Mansu interviews for the paper company because he actually did take out the two other interviewees. He has no competition. He gets the job. And then his wife, Miri, has the choice. She ends up having the evidence needed to turn him in to the police. And what does she do? She does not do it. She decides to stay loyal, to keep the family together, even though she knows that her husband did something that he should not have done. And so I'm expecting the ending to be, oh man, okay, so how are they going to live with this choice? Are they going to eventually find Mansu and they find the right evidence? No, the movie just abruptly ends with everything kind of working out for Mansu. And so I'm like, oh, that's it? Like that, I was really expecting more of an epilogue. And I mean, I don't know why I would expect that, but just in my mind, as I was watching and trying to understand the story, I was expecting there to be a final twist or turn where, well, it can't just end good for Mansu. He can't just end with the perfect life again. And in reality, he did. So, those are some of the thoughts again that I wanted to call out just to kind of explain a little bit more about, what actually happened within the movie with more context. Now is going to be a great segue into the question of this podcast. Why we started this channel. Is No Other Choice timeless after watching it once? Is it something that I can see myself rewatching in the future multiple different times and maybe, just maybe, even owning it on physical media? Now, I had a good time watching this movie. I thought it was great. The story is so intriguing. It's funny. There are a lot of thrills. There's so many moments where you think that it's going to go one way, then it zags and it goes a different way. But I will say that I've gone back and forth a lot in my own head. And as of today, December 17th, I'm going to say that No Other Choice is not a timeless movie for me. Again, today. I definitely would recommend this movie to people to watch. I would recommend, like, I would even say, like, I would want to watch it with friends who have not seen it, just so that we can kind of explore and talk about, like, all the different types of choices that Mansuk goes through and, why he went so exaggerated or intricate with his plan. And also to talk about the ending. But I think that's probably the bigger reason why I don't think it's timeless is I was really hoping for an ending that would leave me just emotionally like, holy crap, like, I can't believe it. I can't believe that they made this decision. Like, I thought it was going to end with Miri, Mansu's wife, deciding to turn him in and then, kind of ending his whole trajectory of being with the paper company. And instead, it ends with him getting his house back, staying with his family, getting the job that he wants. I mean, his job is now basically just him alone because now there's so much AI and artificial intelligence in this paper company. But I guess that's probably the biggest thing that left me with the feeling of maybe it's not timeless is that the ending just didn't hit me really hard. It didn't get me like an emotional punch. I was hoping for that kind of really exclamation point, and I didn't think I got it. So that's my whole reasoning. I think there's literally no other reason why I wouldn't recommend this movie. Again, there's so many great performances, so many funny situations. So I would still highly ask you guys that are listening, check this movie out. And I want to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think about my opinion on this film being timeless? Do you think, oh, Victor, you're way off, man? The ending is great. Let me know. I want to hear your perspective on why you think this ending for No Other Choice is a great way to land the plane in regards to this film. Or do you agree with me? Maybe this isn't a great ending overall. All right, everybody. Appreciate all of you guys sticking all the way through. Those are my full thoughts of No Other Choice. I would love to hear you guys' feedback. So again, leave some comments, subscribe, and follow the channel. Email us at thetimelessmoviepod@gmail.com. Again, would love to hear your guys' opinions on this movie, as well as any other movie that you've seen recently as well. My name is Victor Vasquez. This has been episode number 168 of the Timeless Movie Podcast. Make sure to check out next week's episode. We have a couple of more movies before we wrap up the year of 2025. So, episode 169, we're going to be talking all about Avatar, Fire and Ash. James Cameron is back with his third Avatar film. We'll see how it is. 3 hours and 15 minutes is going to be a long ride at the theaters, but I am super excited to talk about it. So please make sure to follow the channel so you know when that episode is up. All right, everybody. Appreciate you guys listening. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll talk to you later.